we're rolling.
Hello and welcome everyone. As you may notice, I am not Wayne. This isn't a DM session. This isn't an episode of Bardic Quest. This is a new special bonus episode in honour of their remarkable achievement of 100 episodes, 100 episodes, and two years worth of drama and adventure and romance and intrigue and mysteries and of course lots of hijinks. This episode is aptly titled State of the Quest because we are looking both at the past, at the present, and possibly trying to work out something in the murky globe that is the globe of future. But so I've assembled a fine and wonderful cast and of course wonderful DM Wayne to discuss things. Ollie sadly couldn't be with us today, but he is with us in spirit. As a typical rogue, he's just stealthing in the background somewhere. So in terms of looking back at the past 2 years or even just the past year, you have all reached, in terms of production, in terms of character development, a number of wonderful milestones. Has any milestones come out in particular for you all?
Well, I mean, obviously the episode 100 and the second anniversary is a big one for us. Which, you know, obviously in terms of doing this and in terms of doing the Bardic questions, it was definitely something that we wanted to. Because as it happened, it was not planned at all. As it happened for episode 99 being the anniversary episode and then episode 100 coming the week after, it just kind of happened by pure serendipity. So I kind of said to the guys, I was like, I think now is the time to start stepping things up a notch and take things to a new level. So I'm very, very, very excited for today. For kind of some of the things that we're going to be talking about in the immediate future as we're talking today, but obviously all the things yet to come. But also, and I don't think I've shared this with the guys, we did reach another milestone very recently, which YouTube kindly let me know about. It's not 1,000 subscribers yet, although we will get there. God damn it, we will. But we recently hit 8,000 total watch hours of Bardic Quest.
Wow.
Which, doing my calculations, as I am wont to do, actually is the equivalent, I believe, 333 days, so essentially 11 months of somebody watching Bardic Quest from January 1st all the way to pretty much the end of November, without sleeping, without stopping to eat, without stopping to go to the toilet. That's like 11 months of somebody just sat watching Bardic Quest on loop, back to back, with no breaks.
Wow.
If you actually take into account sleeping time, then it's kind of more like a year and a half, I think I worked out. But yeah, nearly a whole year of people watching Bardic Quest back to back, which is kind of made my jaw drop a little bit. But yeah, really, really cool little milestone, which has, once again, with a little bit of serendipity, kind of hit us now as we're kind of celebrating both second anniversary and episode 100 as well. So I'm hoping that there'll be many hundreds more of the show. And yeah, so those are the main milestones. But we are. I'm gonna say it up front now, and I'm gonna put a plea out. If you are a follower of the show, please do share and share alike with anybody that is even D&D curious. Because as you will hear as we kind of go through this state of the quest, we really do want to step things up a notch. And the best way that you can kind of help us to do that is just to get the word out there about this show. And if you are a follower of the show and somehow not subscribed, which I'm not really sure how you would, but if that is the case, then please do make sure you subscribe. Because I'm not one for vanity metrics, but in terms of the capabilities that is unlocked for us when we hit 1,000 subscribers, that really is going to help us to kind of achieve what we want to achieve in terms of providing you lovely folks with more stories, more entertainment, more content, which is starting to become a bit of a dirty word, isn't it? Content. But just more is kind of what we want to do. So yes, help us to hit that milestone too. That would be lovely. Yeah.
In terms of speaking of new content, of course, some of you, I know Anina and Isaac have been helping Wayne look through the new Arcana Unearthed, or Unearthed Arcana, depending on which way around you want to read it.
Yeah, I mean, I really kind of ballsed up with that branding there of that show, really. I thought it was really clever of going...
It's still memorable. It still works.
Yeah, but I find myself getting tongue-tied on whether or not it's Arcana Unearthed or Unearthed Arcana now. I've created a headache for myself. But yes, that has kind of been a bit of a sleeper hit, actually. Certainly the last few episodes have really started to... If you were to look at our channel, the latest two, Arcana Unearthed, have been the biggest videos of the last 30-odd days by quite a significant mile, so kind of outpacing the main show itself. Which, it's all timely stuff, obviously. So, obviously, it's something that we kind of want to do more of, because what it's serving to do, which was kind of the purpose of it anyway, in a way, is reaching out to new people that may not necessarily have found us through looking through actual plays, because there's loads of actual plays out there. And just providing another avenue for people to kind of discover us and discover what we're doing, and also an opportunity to talk mechanics, which when you're kind of running an actual play, you don't really get to... You kind of talk about the mechanics that come up, but as we are on this precipice of a new era of D&D, it seemed like the appropriate time. So I kind of wanted to do another bit of a kind of call out to everybody. Well, not everybody, but anybody that kind of works in the TTRPG space. Anybody, maybe you have an actual play, maybe you are a professional player, maybe you are producing modules or content for D&D. I really would like to take Arcana Unearthed up to the next level. And I think the way to do that is to have more people to bounce off of as we're going through it.
Ooh.
The episodes that we managed to do with Isaac and Anina were really, really fun, but schedules can be a bit tricky, so it's been difficult to get things, particularly when we're all self-employed. It's been tricky to get that alignment as a regular thing. So I was thinking it'd be a nice idea to kind of seek some collaboration with some other folk in the community. So we kind of want to use it as a platform to connect with people and have those people be able to connect with our audience as well. So it's kind of like a call out to any members of the professional TTRPG space that do want to get in and deconstruct the new playtest material as it's coming out, to get in touch at feedback@bardicquest.com. And hit me up and we'll arrange to see if we can get you on and we can talk playtest material.
What a fantastic opportunity. Looking forward to hopefully more of that to come.
Yes, indeed.
So in terms of the current state of the quest, of course, we've hit episode 99. That went out last week. Hopefully everyone's catching up with it, if not already, because episode 100 is on the horizon.
Yes, indeed.
In terms of progressing the state of the quest, I, for one, noticed that the intro has somewhat changed.
Yes.
Would you two, mainly looking at you, Wayne, and you in particular, Isaac, like to elaborate?
I'm going to leave this entirely in your capable hands, Isaac, because really, for me, the star of the show is the new theme that you have kindly written for the show. The rest was... It wasn't even me, really. It's mostly James Webster's stuff at James RPG Art that I edited together. So you take it away, Isaac, and talk about the theme music.
Hello, I'm Isaac. So, as well as being an actor, I'm what's known as an actor musician. So I do both. Essentially, there are two strings to my bow. And Wayne sort of pops up after an episode. I think it was one evening, and says, "Hello. So I'm wanting to develop the show and blah blah blah. Do add these things. And I was thinking about there being a new theme piece of music for the show." And I was like, "Oh, cool, that's a lovely idea." And then he said, "Well, would you like to do it?" And I was like, sort of blustered in that sort of self-deprecating, but no, I couldn't possibly. Me write things that people are going to listen to? No. But he won me round, as he ever does with his persuasiveness. And I kind of set about to the task of writing this piece for the show. And obviously we was it from our dear friends at Sirenscape that the original sort of piece of music was used?
No, it was not from Sirenscape, actually. It was from a website called Envato Elements, who they provide a lot of stock footage for content creators, fonts, graphics. Like it's a one-stop shop for kind of content. Well,
Which
stuff
is
to include in your content.
Absolutely incredible work, and a way. I think it's a really great way for people to use that kind of professional value in their production, whatever it might be. If you don't have that skill set to yourself,
100%.
but I think and correct me if I'm wrong, Wayne. The whole direction of Bardic Quest is kind of heading in a real collaborative format, and it's heading in a real, creating things for us. And as we're kind of growing as a show, it's finding things that make it even more personal, even more sort of our own thing that's coming alive. So yeah, I was really happy to take a stab at the music. So my main instruments that I play, I mainly play guitars and sing. Those are my main things. And in the conversation with Wayne, I was like, well, I don't know if I have the sort of musical aptitude. I don't play 20 instruments. I don't have access to 20 instruments. And we were just kind of throwing some ideas back and forth and landed on, well, just do what you can with what you've got. And I think I'm a real terrible person. I don't know if there are any other creatives listening, but starting is a really hard thing. And telling yourself you can't do things is another really big thing. And the idea that you have to be a master of something before you attempt it, I'm a real bad one for that. And this whole process has been really gratifying, because it's probably made me actually use what I do have at my fingertips in the best way I can. I think, in ever sort of true D&D style, I was kind of improvising, thinking, well, what do I have? And just kind of started just chipping away at those ideas and slowly forming them into what is now the track. I can always, if people are interested, I won't go into like nerdy detail about what equipment I use, but essentially I just recorded it at home. I use a DAW, which is or DAW, a digital audio workstation. Mine's Ableton. I basically have a condenser mic, a little plug-in thing that lets me plug in instruments into my computer. And we were sort of discussing instruments and things like that, and not sponsored in any way for all these things, but I just wanted to say a thank you particularly to a company called Spitfire Audio. As for several instruments, I used their labs software. So essentially, using your computer, laptop, whatever, you can take these sounds and use a keyboard in the sort of musical sense of keyboard, not just your typing keyboard, to bring these instruments into your piece of music. So I kind of settled on this idea of having a mixture of, I knew that my forte was going to be maybe in the slightly more modern rock kind of era of things. And I was kind of getting inspiration from other things. Heavy metal and rock music can be very symphonic, and there have been loads of instances of amazing bands that utilize kind of folk instruments and like rock instruments and that sort of thing. And there have been a few kind of series and TV shows that have kind of incorporated elements. Things like Black Sails is a really good example. Really amazing theme tune. James is a huge fan, so it was like where they have that just amazing hurdy-gurdy, which just kind of comes in with this like beautiful rock guitar. Bands like butchering the pronunciation, Eluvite, Wardruna, Nightwish, and there's loads of other amazing musicians who have kind of been inspiration for this sort of era of stuff. And I wanted to take something really different away. I wanted to take the kind of energy of the original piece of music because it's amazing and really epic. But I also wanted to kind of draw on the sort of progression of the story, I guess, and how things have changed for the party. Like, we're not the first sort of track is very like da da da, it's very triumphant and very like victorious. I think I've always been like, yeah, we're gonna win, and it really pumps you up before a session. I think I wanted to take that energy, but also kind of show maybe a slightly more mature side to how things have developed, maybe something a little more serious in tone, something that's maybe not quite so sure of itself. So one of the first things I came up with when I was writing the piece of music was the drums. The drums were the first thing, or the beat, as it were, like that, just that pulse throughout the whole thing, I think had so much to do with it. And as I was formulating these ideas and looking at what was at my fingertips instrument wise, I knew there was going to be like guitars and drums and bass and that sort of thing, and some vocals, with the way that those could be used. And I started to think almost like, okay, well, what if each of the characters was sort of semi-represented by one of the instruments? So I was kind of drawing out the themes of each of the characters and how they interplay with each other. So the drums have always been Saga, like this, the kind of like strength of her character, this kind of tribal, kind of Viking-y, Norse influenced, war maiden. And the idea of like these battle drums kind of going with her energy, I thought was a really good sort of pulse. And that's sort of as we were sort of going through it and sort of doing all the sort of nerdy musical things around it structurally about how it all works. So just to kind of pick out a couple of the other instruments that I used in the very intro of the piece, which is beautifully kind of Wayne did something very beautiful with the opening piece of music and the visuals from James Webster, where it's in the cave and he's kind of added this like huge, there's a lot of kind of reverb echo on a lot of the instruments anyway, but he kind of just extended that almost as if you were hearing these instruments through the mines, just sort of appearing sort of on the wind somewhere. So the instruments in that is a hammered dulcimer, which is this very beautiful string instrument. It's used in loads of kind of medieval pieces of music. It's quite delicate. And quite sort of haunting. I think I started thinking that was quite a Johanny sort of thing, that you can play it in many different ways and you can pluck it and you can make it sound quite sort of jarring, quite sort of dissonant almost in different places, but it's also very gentle, very beautiful, and very almost kind of smooth, and sound kind of builds in texture. And I always thought that was like Johann, this kind of maybe slightly prickly disposition, but actually actually has quite a sort of soft, tender side to him. So yeah, it starts with this hammered dulcimer. One of the other instruments, one of the key instruments where you kind of get most of the melody, is it's an Irish instrument called again, forgive me for pronunciation if this is wrong, Elian pipes, which are similar to bagpipes. They're very there's differences to them with how they're made, but I won't go into all that detail because I'll probably be talking up my bum anyway. You get it all. But they have this real kind of like, similar to bagpipes, they have that real kind of push to them. They're, you know, kind of they just seem to really work for the main melody line, and there's kind of harmonies that happen later on with this kind of da 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 theme, which sort of became the main kind of melody of the piece. And as ever, I kind of saw this kind of windy gas bag instrument and just thought that was a really appropriate instrument for Sergei. It's loud, it's in your face. It's definitely makes an entrance, I think. And I just thought that was a really perfect instrument to sort of half represent Sergei and his sort of fun energy, because it's a very like, it can be like a very sort of jaunty instrument with these kind of under this like pedal note you can put underneath it, similar with bagpipes where you can play multiple tones at the same time. That ended up being a really, really key instrument mixed in with everything else. Thoric, I never really know what instrument Thoric is yet. In terms of the other instruments that were ended up used, there were these kind of strings that ended up in there. There's bass guitar and like electric guitar, and I tried to get a Gaelic choir. Not a real one. Unfortunately, wish we had the budget for that. I just went down my local. Cool. Maybe next season 2, maybe I'll manage to get a choir together. But it didn't work for some reason. Just this one instrument wouldn't work, so I just ended up doing the vocals myself, and kind of standing about 10 yards away from the microphone to get this sort of slightly unsettling, sort of haunting kind of tribally vocal kind of line over the top of it.
I have no idea that was your vocals. I assume that was an instrument.
I had an idea.
I thought it was
Isaac.
I mean, I should have probably assumed it was, but because I knew how you were going about the creative process, I just assumed it was an instrument that you used. Wow.
It was meant to be an instrument with kind of more layers, and then it was actually starting to, I think, with these kind of happy accidents that happen, I managed to try and get a different choir working, and it never sounded as strong with too much. Like, there came to a point where there were already about 8 instruments on the track. I just thought, this is too much now. It ended up becoming too much. I think I was striving for the tone of what the first sort of piece of music had, which was, clearly they've kind of recorded it. I don't know if they've recorded it in a big studio or whatever with loads of stuff, loads more instruments, but it sounds very big. There's kind of very big orchestral instruments, and most orchestras have like 20, 30 instruments strong in them. And that was just never going to happen in my tiny little home studio. So I thought, work again, as Wayne has kind of said, work with what you have, not what you don't. You don't have an orchestra, so don't try and be an orchestra. So with that, stripped it back, came up with this melody line where I was basically kind of improvising over the main melody, and had found the structure that worked. One that didn't punch in straight away, or one that kind of built a bit more, and had this kind of very haunting opening into the opening of the sort of guitars and stuff bursting in, with the drums sort of picking up to a crescendo, and then again tailing off to this more unsettling, uncertain kind of line. Yeah, I don't know what more to say than that, really. It turned out quite well, I think, and everyone's been incredibly kind about it, and I think it was a really nice push, I think, to do something creatively that I probably wouldn't have had the confidence to suggest myself, if that makes sense.
Well, I can
Well,
say...
as a fan, I can say I'm glad that the idea is suggested, and I'm glad you picked it up, Isaac, because it is a truly sensational piece of work. And it shows a lot of heart and spirit behind it as well. And I like how you have thought so deeply about the characters and the music as well. It really comes through. And in fact, it reminds me a lot of the introduction to the Last Kingdom series that used to be on BBC and now is on Netflix, because that has a similar kind of instrumental use with kind of like a singer singing on the top.
I have not heard that piece of music, actually. I shall have to go away and listen to that. I've seen it.
If you like history, if you like Vikings, watch The Last Kingdom. There, I've said it. I'm biased.
Done. That's my evening. That's my evening sorted for me then.
I will say as well, Isaac, that when you first sent it through to me, I must have listened to it about 50 times that day, just on loop. Partly, yes, because I knew I had to edit the opening credits on it, but then beyond that, it almost became obsessive listening for me. So I think you did a absolutely cracking job, and I think all of the love from the community that you're getting for it is completely 100% deserved.
Thank you. I would strongly suggest, if you haven't already, listen to it on good headphones or big speakers, and just thrash around your room for a bit, because it's
I think it's great for that.
You can't play it quietly. I was trying to play it to someone just on my phone, and they were sort of like, "Oh, okay, I don't get it." I was like, "Wait, hang on." Sat in my car and put it on. I was like, "There we go." It was like, just like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I get it now." I mean, if people are interested, I can always talk to Wayne, and if people are interested in like the nerdier side of things and are interested in what equipment I use or what guitars I use or anything like that, chat to me, or I can always put a little thingy for Wayne to look at and to send over. And again, props to your work editing the visuals to it, because I mean that was the biggest thing for me, not having the context of just kind of having the music, and I had no idea what Wayne was going to do with it, and I kind of just almost imagined it to what the visuals were originally and thought, okay, well, I think that'll suit and that'll fit, that'll be good. And when you came out with what you had, that blew me away, and it kind of it elevated both formats. I think the music elevated what you're seeing, and then also the visuals really amped up the music, particularly the going from the sort of like really quiet caves and then having that blackout screen into the burning building when the vocals hit. It's really, you kind of don't have that perspective on your own work until you see it in context, and when you see it, like, oh wow, okay, I really see what other people have put to this as well. I think that's really exciting about music, because other people have different things in their heads, and when you see that visual element, it's awesome. I think eagle-eyed viewers will catch, same as we did, the kind of different things that have happened in the story so far. I won't give away all of them, but maybe people can kind of talk to us about what they've spotted. But there are definitely kind of little tidbits and Easter eggs that Wayne's very cleverly put in of the different locations and segments of the adventure that we've appeared in so far. Full moon, and other things like that. Which
I'm gonna confess, I'm really fighting with myself here, because whilst all I will say is that is one interpretation of what you've seen.
Oh.
Because
And I don't know if I want to say any more than that, because but when you sent me through your feedback of like the edit and like, oh, and this means this and this means that, I'm like, I mean, it could mean that, or it could mean something else.
I sent you a thing when I saw the burning building. I was like, that's I know what that burning building is.
But every single frame of that opening credit sequence was very deliberately chosen. Well, that's probably overstating a little bit. Every image, not every frame, but every image of that was I did not create most of those frames. No, every image was very, very deliberately chosen, and where in the edit fits. It was also very deliberate.
But having heard how Isaac mentioned about how he was thinking about the sounds travelling through the cave and that lovely extended cave scene experience at the start, it just shows you two both clicked on so many levels on reworking this introduction.
100%. I mean, Isaac's music was so vivid for me. Like, to be perfectly honest, that whilst yes, every image was deliberately chosen from a narrative perspective, the opening credits sequence kind of wrote itself or edited itself in my head as I was listening to Isaac's music. I honestly didn't really know. I mean, I knew I was going to use James Webster's work because it's just so good and it worked so well on the previous. But beyond that, I kind of didn't really know. I was waiting for Isaac's music before I really started to piece it together in my head.
I don't think you'd actually ever... I mean, I don't really record a lot anyway, but I don't think you've actually ever really heard me play music, apart from maybe when we were training, when you were a couple of years above me. I don't know if you ever came to the infamous actors clubs where I maybe warbled a song or two, which isn't really good context, and is also 10 years ago. So it's, you know, Wayne put an awful lot of faith in me and just kind of said, go for it. Like, I was like, you've not heard me do anything before. Like, I might be terrible.
But it kind of comes back to, I think, kind of what you were saying quite early on there, Isaac, about, for me, this whole show, and actually D&D as a whole, I kind of wrote a blog post on our website about this. Like, I think the reason D&D is so good as a hobby is you have the game, and then you have all of the creativity that surrounds the game, and you can make D&D whatever creative outlet you want it to be, whether that be an excuse to draw your character, an excuse to write a theme song for your character, whether it be an excuse to create some props as a DM that you want to give to your players, or anything like that, writing backstories. Just there's just so much creativity that surrounds just the core of the hobby, like even producing shows like what we're doing, and I think that's why it, in my mind, has always been elevated. Like, my hobby used to be being an actor, and then I trained as an actor and decided to do it professionally, and then it was like, man, I need to get another hobby. You know, and D&D was quickly there. I mean, I'd been playing D&D for years anyway, but it'd never been a main hobby of mine. That was always for acting, you know. And so I kind of, when I put this show together, the thought was that it was always going to be a creative outlet for all of us in some way, shape or form. So when I realised how much you were still doing your music, Isaac, it was a no-brainer for me in that respect to kind of throw it your way and kind of let you... Because also to kind of open up the proverbial cagoule, you know, there was not much creative back and forth between us on that music. I kind of went, here's the brief.
Yeah.
Go for it. And there was one tiny bit of feedback I gave when you sent me that first draft through, which was the most minuscule bit of feedback, which also spoke to my musical background a little bit, which was drums. Give me more drums. That was basically... Like,
you've given me drums. You just... Can we have more drums? Yeah. You can have as many drums as you like. Just, give me 10 minutes.
That was pretty much the only feedback you got from me. Because again, Isaac, you did such a cracking job with it.
Thank you.
And you know, from that, we have decided that you're going to do more music.
There'll be more. I'll let you decide how much is said on that front, but there will be more.
There will be more.
Which I don't know how much to say or not say. I'll probably leave that to Wayne, but I'm certainly going to be exploring from my side of things. Obviously, they'll have applications that we will not discuss now, but we'll certainly be extrapolating on each of the characters in some way, shape, or form. And I also would love to have, some stuff that maybe people could use themselves for their own games in the future. Yeah, that's all I'll say for now.
It's all very exciting, very intriguing. If you want more, keep giving it.
There'll be more. There'll be more. Having time to write. I've just moved into a new home with my partner, so creativity has been very small, but hoping to sort of get back into more creative outlets as we settle in.
The old challenge of time.
Time, your cruel mistress.
100%. Awesome. Thank you, Isaac. I mean, that was quite an insight for me as well, actually, to be honest, in terms of some of the creative process. I kind of I'd got a lot of it by osmosis from conversations we'd had, but that was actually a really good insight into what you'd done there. So thank you for sharing.
I'm not sure how waffly it was, but I'm sure
It was really interesting. It really was.
As someone who has no musical talent, that was really fascinating. I love how everyone has their own instrument.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It'd be nice to work with some other people as well. So, opening slots for the Bardic Quest band at some point.
That sounds fun.
Maybe playing at that pub meetup.
Yeah. Oh, Bardic Open Night. Yes, please.
Yes.
There was a bell.
Yes, can we do karaoke of the dead?
It does.
Everyone has a crack at it.
If we hit 1,000 subscribers, I will get up on a stage and do a karaoke of There Was a Bear. I'm proud of people. That's my bet. You heard it here first. It's my promise.
I mean, you have to then do also, has anyone heard of Thunder Tree?
That's just gone top of the list. All the other projects have gone to the wayside. I'm now just going to write the underscore to Death of a Bear.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, well, thank you very much. That was a really good discussion. I'm sure me and the other fans really appreciated this insight into the wonderful talents and, of course, passion that comes through such talent into Bardic Quest. So is there anything else imminently maybe on the horizon in the current state of Bardic Quest? Because, of course, you've got new graphics. I've noticed you've got the lovely new layouts now with the lovely flotating, rolling D20s. Lovely, nice touch.
The new layout, actually. I was always not sure about how to do the layout. I always kind of... the reason we started doing it on Zoom was I liked the kind of almost cinematic feel of there being one person on the screen at any one time. And particularly when we started introducing the virtual backgrounds behind everybody that kind of looked like they were kind of roughly in the same sort of place. That cinematic feel really kind of... jumped off the screen, but I've been doing my research on actual plays themselves, and not necessarily to say that I'd never watched an actual play before, because this is kind of the default way of doing it, but as to why that kind of is the default and things like that. So I kind of thought, you know what, as we're approaching 2 years, as we're approaching episode 100, and I'd been experimenting with it with Arcana Unearthed with the software, I thought now's the time to kind of try it out. So I'd actually really appreciate, Becky, your thoughts on that change, because I actually don't know. I don't know. I'm guessing.
I must admit, the one thought that came up to was like, oh, we can actually see where these guys are playing from, because of course before you'd have the lovely either still or animated James RPG art behind you, and like, oh, I can see, so is that a bedroom, is that a study? I mean, for episode 99, I couldn't work out if Wally was in a hotel or if his bedroom is just really sparse and tidy and minimal. Kind of thing. But that's just me, just being a general nosy person. But I did quite like it. It obviously kind of gave it, not to sound backwards in any criticism, but obviously again that more professional feel, again, that level up that you were going for. It really did, because of course I know from day one you used a lot of the backgrounds behind at least yourself, Wayne, to indicate where these characters are now, and how it kind of encompasses them all regardless of who's on screen at any one time, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I must admit, sometimes I do find the little moving boxes at either side of the frame slightly distracting. It's like, oh, that one's going down, that one's going up. But that's just me personally. But that is such a minor thing. Once you're actually in the zone of what's happening, it's not then kind of focused on who's rolling what and who's saying what and that kind of thing. So no, I quite like it personally. I do like it.
Good to know. Good to know. Yeah, I mean, as I say, it was a bit of guesswork from me as to whether or not it would land, but it was certainly something worth trying. So I'm glad that it's kind of landed in that way, in a positive way, rather than one of kind of maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. It was always a risk. So particularly because, and I said this to the guys, I kind of didn't want to lose the virtual backgrounds on the cameras.
No.
I did like that, but I thought actually I think it does elevate things a little bit to the extent that it was worth. And I mean, I managed to have a virtual background on mine because I have a green screen, so I can. So perhaps that is an investment to make on everybody else, getting hold of a green screen for everybody.
Just haven't.
But I thought it's a sacrifice worth making anyway to kind of elevate things a little bit further, and I think it works better. But I agree with you on the little boxes. I do catch myself kind of going, it's going up. And they're all going up at the same time, and they're all going down at the same time. I am going to rethink that because I confess I too, when I'm watching on the chat, the live chat, I kind of go.
It's strange though because the D20 are rolling around, but that doesn't seem to bother the eye so much. I think it's just because our peripheral vision is always looking
no,
at
it does for me. I'm going and a 20 when the little dice spin round. So maybe I'm just that way inclined, but yeah, the D20s distract me as well.
You know how you mentioned you looked at kind of like what other actual role play shows are doing? Kind of like there's only one other show that I followed for some time until its prologue campaign ended recently, which was Mistletoe by Joe Fudge, and he has a very much similar layout. Everyone's kind of like got their live video feeds with no artificial or virtual backgrounds, but the background surrounding the feeds is kind of branded and tied in thematically with what they're doing. It doesn't ever change. It's usually like one static image that suits the theme of the campaign, but whereas I like yours because it shows scenes and of course showcases James' wonderful art, which I too try and use in my own little homebrew game that is very slowly moving along.
Yes, they do. They do. Homebrew home games can move. They kind of have a little bit of a. It's true what they say. It is very different. Like running a game of D&D at home versus running a game of D&D for an actual play. You are allowed to have a session of just shopping for 3 hours, and that's fine. So, yeah.
So, speaking of episodes, episode 100.
Yes. Oh, yes. We completely got sidetracked, didn't we? Thank you for bringing me back on track. Yeah, we got completely sidetracked with the new layout. So, yes, episode 100 is coming out this Thursday. By the time this video comes out, it will be 1 or 2 days away. This is going to be another... So, for those like yourself, Becky, that don't have a lot of time to watch actual plays, I do apologise, but this is going to be another feature. This is actually longer than episode by about 15 minutes, I think, longer than episode 99. It's coming in at about 2 hours 20, I think.
Episode 100, we can forgive you. It's fine. It's forgiven.
we do it once every now and then. So it is going to be a full-blown feature-length episode, which is mostly consisting of a rather intense encounter that happens within the Lost Mine. And at the end, I am going to give a little bit of a tease. At the end of episode 100, that we will have the reveal. Not necessarily a full-blown reveal, but we will have the reveal of a long-awaited character making an appearance at the very end of the episode. So that's my
Ooh.
little tease for you there.
Oh, my brain's thinking, who could it be? Who could it be? Who could it be?
But yes, so that's coming out this week in only a matter of days, which is very, very exciting.
Brilliant. Well, I know many will be glued to their seats for that one, if not watching it live. So, anything else changing regarding the scheduling of episodes, time it's coming out?
Absolutely, yes. So, as with many things related to D&D, a lot of things happen by happy accidents. And a few weeks ago, for those of you that do try to watch live, you will have probably noticed that we premiered an episode at 7 p.m. And that is not for any reason other than the fact that I scheduled it wrong on YouTube. Because most of my games that I run online as part of the Adventurers Guild, bardicquest.com/play, but most of those start at 7 p.m. So when I'm scheduling things in, it's kind of like muscle memory now. 7 p.m, 7 p.m, 7 p.m. So I accidentally premiered an episode at 7 p.m. about 3 weeks ago. But what I did notice was a dramatic difference in how well that episode did in terms of analytics and things. And so I'm not going to, bite off the hand that feeds me or cut my nose off to spite my face by ignoring mathematics and analytics. So we are going to, at least in the short term, be moving the premiere times of episodes from Thursday at 4 p.m. to Thursday at 7 p.m. Which means that also it's going to be a better time for people that have a fairly normal schedule. There was logic to the madness of premiering the episodes at 4 p.m. on a Thursday, but it appears, at least with that first accidental 7 p.m. scheduling, that 7 p.m. is better, despite that counterintuitive logic that I was using. So we're at least going to, for the short term, try moving them to 7 p.m. and probably, if it continues to go as well as I think it will probably stay there, which will mean that more people can watch live and in the chat. I unfortunately can't, ironically, because I run games on Thursdays at 7 p.m, so I unfortunately won't be able to join the chat, which is an unfortunate sacrifice to make. But I think it'd be worth it so that everybody can tune in live after they've gotten home from work, had their dinner, maybe even watching it with dinner. Who knows? But yes, I think it's a much better time, so we will be doing that. I haven't actually decided whether I'm going to do that starting with episode 100 or 101, so keep an eye out on the YouTube as I make that decision in only a matter of hours.
No, well, I think it'll be quite nice for you in a way, because then you can just kind of know it's playing, hope everyone's enjoying, and then it's a nice surprise when you log on afterwards and see all the lovely chat and feedback.
That's very true. It will stop me being glued to my phone looking at how well it's doing whilst I'm running a game and trying not to be too mean to my players on that particular table. Yeah, fun times.
7 p.m, right, I will make a note of that for my diaries coming up. Now, what happens, of course, if the end of this chapter happens sooner rather than later, or if you like to take a holiday, well, I say holiday, like to take a break from recording sessions like there was for a month back in the summer. What plans regarding that?
So that was kind of a trial as well that I did. A lot of change has been happening behind the scenes this year. A lot of trying new things, a lot of trying to tighten everything up. And one of the things that has become a continual headache for me, you can't quite see, but it's given me a lot of grey hairs, is the production and editing schedule around Bardic Quest. Partly because I cannot seem to get episodes out quickly enough. So what happens is that we'll start with 6 to 8 episodes in the can, and then scheduling issues will come up because we're busy performers working a very unpredictable schedule. And so that 6 to 8 episodes runway, that I call it, that we have shrinks down to 1-2 episodes very quickly. And so then at that point we don't have the flexibility to be like, oh, well, actually we can't have everybody that week, so we can delay it a week. we kind of don't have that flexibility when that happens, which is how we end up with situations where we have 4 episodes of just Thoric and Johan, for example. Which, whilst entertaining in their own way, because I really appreciate the bromance that those 2 characters have developed, it is also can be problematic from a storytelling perspective, and I imagine possibly for the audience too, to a degree as well. So at the end of chapter 5, which was the return to Phandalin, before everything moved over to chapter 6, Wave Echo Cave, we did take that break of about a month. That was actually not so that we could take a break from recording, but just so that we could build that runway back up again. So that if scheduling issues did happen. So recording was happening as normal during that time. But what it meant was that we could then be a little bit more flexible further down the line. And here we are, only 3 months later, and already we have next week's episode in the can. And that's it. Like we have zero that's how quickly that can be eaten up. So going forward, the plan will be after each chapter, we're kind of going to have like a chapter finale, which is kind of going to be like a mini season within the larger season, I suppose. We're going to have when the chapter ends, we're going to take a break of maybe 2 to 4 weeks, so that we can build that runway up as well and kind of go into a dark season, as some might call it, for 2 to 4 weeks, wherein we're not going to be putting out the main show. We will continue to put out Arcana Unearthed. That will often be an opportunity for me to step up and kind of catch up on the playtest material, which is coming out thick and fast, and I cannot keep up with it. So it'll be an excuse for me to put more of that out, plus a few other things as well, which we will talk about. Well, actually, I feel as though that might be a perfectly good segue, in fact, to the next point, which really, burying the lead a little bit, is really the big deal for me today, which is the thing that I'm really most excited about. As of today, not the day of recording this, but the day that you are watching this, dear listener, dear viewer, as of today, Bardic Quest now officially has a Patreon, which we are calling Bardic Quest Plus, because, you know, we have to lean into that plus trope that everybody is coming out with at the moment. So we're going with that. Bardic Quest Plus on Patreon today, where is one tier. We might introduce more tiers later on, but it's going to be one singular tier to begin with, which is going to give you access to a number of things. It's going to give you access to the community Discord that we are building up, which actually has started out as the Discord for the Adventurers Guild, where I run the pay-to-play D&D games, but we're opening that up to our patrons as well. The cast is all on it as well. It's basically, the Discord is like what I call the Bardic Quest stronghold, right? That is the imagine it like Bardic Quest HQ online. That is it. We're all in there. You're in there as well, Becky. Yep. We've been organising this through that, so it is kind of the community hub. So being a patron of ours on there will give you access to that. It's going to give you early access to episodes. The intent is, again, as you are watching this now, the intent is that episode 100 is available on there right now. Patreon.com/Bardic Quest, so you can get in. It's only going to be a few days early on this one, because we're launching, and then we're only 3 or 4 days as we're recording this from episode 100 going live. But the plan is to try and make those episodes available to you roughly a week before they go live, so you kind of get a head start, is the plan. Obviously, again, as we were just talking about production schedules, that may vary, but as a general rule of thumb, the idea is to put those episodes out a week early so you have access to them. It's also going to feature behind the scenes updates, including what I'm calling Bardic Quest behind the screens, which might be some discussions between us and the cast members. It might be a lot of maybe me doing some DM prep maybe, possibly, for some stuff that we'll talk about in a minute, and possibly some more as well. But just general behind-the-scenes updates on that, including some video stuff as well. And then, and this is the biggie for me, what I'm calling ultra early access to some brand new actual play series. That's plural, actual play series, as and when they become available to us. So ultra early access, just to clarify for everybody, because of the Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro fan content policy, we have to make sure that the shows that we produce using D&D have to be available for free. So we cannot put these things behind a paywall indefinitely. Otherwise, we would make them exclusive to patrons, because you are the people that are, giving us the money to produce these things. But we're not allowed to do that. So instead, what we're doing is we're doing what we're calling this ultra early access, which is rather than maybe a week, this could be, well, it's going to be, let me put it this way. It's going to be more than weeks early, but less than a year early.
I'm sure all fans would appreciate it, no matter how early it came.
Well, indeed, and some of those things that are in ultra early access, those are the sorts of things that we might be putting out during those dark seasons between some of the chapter breaks as well, made available to the public for free. So that'll be part of that programming that comes out during that downtime from the main campaign. So we're really, really, really excited. Again, like, the plan this year was to take Bardic Quest to the next level, and Patreon is very much the vehicle through which we're going to be doing that. So the Patreon itself is going to be £5 a month, which is going to allow us to put as much together as we can. The idea is we just want to produce more stories for you to enjoy. And obviously these things take a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of logistics. I think people really underestimate just how hard it is to get everybody together at the same time. And we want to make this kind of like we were talking about with Isaac and the music. We want Bardic Quest to be a hub for creativity. So we want to be able to bring new talent in. We want to be able to embrace new creatives. But all of these things come at a cost. So this is just a way that you can help us to produce this show to a higher level and produce more shows, more stories for you. So if you did want to support the show financially, beyond just sharing it on social media and things like that, or buying merch, then this is a great way for you to do it. Get in on the ground floor on some of the new content that we're looking to produce and the new stories. So that'll be patreon.com/Bardic Quest, as we kind of look to take Bardic Quest to the next level.
Well, what a wonderful way to mark 2 years. And more or less, it's like the community giving you all experience points to reach level 2.
I like that. Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah, I like that. I like that.
Well, I certainly will be signing up. You can guarantee it. You've got me here. You can't escape me. I will stop you all.
Well, thank you, Becky. I do definitely appreciate that. So that is our platform for taking us into the future.
Well, can we learn any more from the mystical globe of the future of Bardic Quest, or is it all still the magic still being developed?
We've got there's a lot of magic in development, and we've got a few more things to announce that kind of ties into the Patreon. But first of all, I kind of want to address the main show. Because anybody that knows the Lost Mine of Phandelver adventure knows that we are at a place where we're very close to the end of the published adventure. That being said, there are stories still to be told with Saga, Johan, Thoric, and Sergei. And so the story is going to continue a little bit beyond that. However, we are entering the end game now. So I kind of wanted to address kind of what the plan is. So, I believe last year I teased that I was thinking about the next campaign. Very much in passing, kind of like, yeah, I've got some ideas. Well, ideas change, and now I'm on a completely different thought track to where I was then. However, I will say that Bardic Quest Season 2, or Campaign 2, whichever you prefer, is very much in the works, very much in development, and these things are always difficult to plan with D&D, but if it all goes to plan, should be beginning next year. And some other things which I actually don't know how much I've told Anina and James about this, so this might be some news to them.
Not a lot.
I mean, not since
I've
the change.
What's that,
I'm
sorry?
here as well going, what's happening?
Yeah, I just, it's just occurred to me, I don't think I've really... There's been a lot swimming around in my head for a long time, so this is probably going to be news to you guys, so fire off any questions you want at me. But, Season 2, we're moving homebrew. We're leaving the Forgotten Realms behind, and we are moving into a new world, which is one of my creation. Because I actually... So I had a story in my mind a long time ago now. A long time ago. A little bit longer than I'd care to admit, to be honest. A story in my mind about a fantasy world. And for many, many years now, I have been trying to find the medium through which to tell the story of this world. I had considered writing a film, I had considered writing a play, I had considered writing a radio drama, I had considered writing a book. But I am no writer. I just don't have the patience for it. I love a good story, but I just don't have the patience for sitting down and writing. So then it occurred to me, shortly after the anniversary last year, where I was like, yeah, I kind of got an idea for campaign 2, it suddenly occurred to me, oh, hang on, I have the perfect medium here to tell the story of this world that has been swimming around my head for, let's say, 15 years, probably a bit longer. So that is the world that we are going to be playing around with. I don't want to go into too much detail yet, because I kind of want to save it for some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that's going to be on Patreon. But what I will say is that this is a world which is very much battling with the fallout of the loss of order. It is a world in which the gods have abandoned the world entirely. It's gone so terribly wrong that the gods are just not interested anymore. And they have essentially taken with them all of the magic from this world. So it is going to be I don't want to say low fantasy. I don't even necessarily want to say low magic. It will kind of be low magic, just by the conceit of the setting. But it's not necessarily to say that their magic just doesn't exist. It's just perhaps not accessible. So it is, as I say, a story that has been swimming around my head for... Well, I say a story, a world that has been swimming around my head, because I don't want to obviously guide the story too much. I don't want to be too rigid on kind of the story that we're telling, but certainly the themes and the ideas and the characters and things have been swimming around for some time. And I'd like to give James and Anina and Ollie and Isaac the opportunity to play around in that world, which will be, I hope, the home of many campaigns to come as well, as we move into something a little bit more collectively ours.
I was going to say, it sounds like a wonderful Wayne original.
Well, I hope so. I hope I can pull it off, because it's been a lot. I haven't done any homebrew D&D since before 5th edition. In fact, I think the 3rd edition days. So it'll be an interesting muscle to have to kind of retrain myself to do with the homebrew stuff. But I kind of equally have been able to dabble around with, hooking in the characters' backstories into season 1, and kind of playing around with those toys to kind of introduce some homebrew stuff. And it was very creatively fulfilling, so I'm kind of looking forward to delving into it. But again, I know that I don't think much of that was shared with Anina and James beforehand, so I don't know if you guys have got any
I am
questions.
very excited.
Yeah, you've hinted at things, but yeah.
I can't even remember what I'd hinted at, to be honest. Had I hinted the low magic thing?
No, that was
Oh,
new.
okay. To be honest, I still don't know how we're going to do that.
Are we still going to be Saga, Thoric, Sergei, and Johan? Or other people?
To new characters.
I must admit, it has been on my mind as a fan, kind of like after Fandelver's saved and the Lost Mine is either destroyed or kept. What happens to you all?
Well, I mean, look, we have a multiverse with D&D to play around with, so I don't want to say specifically one way or the other, but I will say it's not the intention for this to be a continuation of the party now. So we will, at some point in the next 12-ish months, probably bidding a fond farewell to those original characters, which is going to be a sad day, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it when we were recording Bardic Questions and talking about, do people have backup characters? It's like,
Yes.
I don't actually know if I'm going to be able to deal with if one of the characters dies. And then I started thinking, oh god, at some point we're going to have to wrap up their story, and I don't know how well I'll handle that either. I might have to
there could always
Ben and
be
Jerry's on the
one shots. That they are.
Well, that's it. Just because season 1 is ending doesn't necessarily mean it's an end for their stories. Which again, we might kind of come to how we might go about that very, very soon in this conversation. But yeah, the headline is season 2 is coming next year, even if that means it's like December 31st. Like, I'm allowing myself to December 31st to get it ready. But, it might get pushed back. You never know, because these things do sometimes take longer. But the intent is, it's very much in active development now. I'm very much fleshing out this world that's been sitting in my head. So that'll be coming soon as we move homebrew.
Right. Oh, well, personally, I'm delighted if any, if not all, the cast continue in this new play world to explore and discover and share with us fans. It's all good, because I always wondered if you'd either kind of like if any of them would move on or if you'd get new actors in, but I'm attached to you 4, so if you could just stay around, that'd be really nice.
we will do our best, certainly. But yeah, so that's kind of like the headline one in that respect. But obviously we've got the stuff I've been teasing about with Patreon as well.
Yes.
So I'm actually, because I'm a glutton for punishment, and you know how I was saying about how much work Bardic Quest is and kind of all the logistics of it. I felt, what could a semi burnt out show producer want more than more shows to produce and organize? So because I'm a glutton for punishment, I'm going to announce 5 new shows today.
Wow.
Which I've just said that out loud, and I just realised how mad I am.
It's insane.
I'll be here cheering you on, Wayne.
Thank you. No, to be fair, a lot of it sounds a lot more dramatic than perhaps it actually is, because a lot of this is supporting content that we're going to be putting out for Patreon. So we've kind of got 3 categories of these new shows. The first one is what we're calling kind of bonus support content or supporting content. So we're starting out with, and actually we alluded to this with Bardic Questions, funnily enough. But what I'm calling and again, these are all working titles, so these may change. But for the time being, Bardic Quest Downtime, which is all of those conversations that we've had when the cameras might be rolling, but we're not necessarily playing, the debates about chocolate, for example, all of those kind of it's just us being us, just chatting away. We've got those kind of in the archive. So I kind of want to pull those out and kind of package them together as a little bit of fun extra content for everybody who's on Patreon. So that's going to be made with ultra early access to patrons, and probably will get put out during some of that dark season as well, as we piece those together. So that'll be fun, because there have been, aside from the chocolate one, Anina, James, there's got to be some other.
There's when your tech went down, I don't know, was it recorded? I think at least part of it was recorded. Your tech was down, and we had some time to kill. So I was giving the guys some Finnish lessons.
Oh yes,
some very important words.
Yes,
that probably about that. There was a heated conversation about what the best cola was. Definitely. Yeah, that's what I remember off the bat.
James, any that jump out at you? Any random conversations we've had
some random debates, really, didn't we?
Yeah.
They just kind of, we're all big personalities, right? So they
I
just
think
kind
me and
of
Ollie got up to some wacky stuff.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure as well there is some footage somewhere which Isaac, being as humble as he was being earlier, this is actually where the thought first really occurred to me about Isaac's musical talents. There is some footage somewhere, and I think it was just before the anniversary last year. Was that?
He's playing the guitar.
Yeah, he just was messing around on his guitar and looked at kind of doing a what I would describe as a metal version of the first theme tune that we did, and he was just kind of goofing around, and I think I have that footage somewhere of him just kind of goofing around with a guitar, trying to do a rocked up version of the first theme. So things like that is kind of what you can expect on that, because there's, as I say, we're big personalities, so the goofiness doesn't stop just because the cameras aren't. Well, I mean, they are recording, but just because the episodes edited it out, there's still plenty of goofing around going on. So we kind of want to put that out, and that's something that we've all discussed for a very long time about putting out. So we'll put that out. Again, we'll put that as kind of ultra early access for the patrons, and then put that out in the dark season. And then the other kind of bonus supporting content, and this is something that came up around last year as we kind of did we've done a year's worth of episodes. Isaac had said to me, he was like, do you think it would be worth producing a kind of story so far video for those that haven't been following along? And I was like, yeah, I kind of like that. But that's not what I'm actually going to say that we're doing now. So from that idea spawned the idea of what I'm calling Bardic Quest Abridged, which is essentially a re-editing of the episodes that have been produced so far and putting them into a much longer form video. So it'll be cutting out a lot of the awkward pauses that kind of happen whilst we're because we're improvising, right? Trying to work out what on earth we're going to say. We're going to cut all that down. We might cut out some of, not too much of, the kind of off-topic kind of chit-chat. But of course, if it's entertaining and fun, we'll keep it in. But just to really tighten those episodes up. And partly it's because, I mean, it's that thing, I've made the mistake on multiple occasions of re-watching episode 1. And of course, I was very happy with episode 1 at the time, but the show has evolved and developed, and we've got better at what we're doing since episode 1, and now I kind of look back at episode 1 and I'm like, there's a lot of dead air here. And I don't know if that's necessarily the first impression I want everybody to have of Bardic Quest, because I don't think it's an accurate representation of where the show is at now. So there was also that problem that I wanted to solve by kind of tightening all of that up and putting it together and packaging it together. So the plan is, with Bardic Quest Abridged, that we will be repackaging those so it's chapter by chapter. So they won't come out, they won't be a regular release by any means. It's a lot of editing down I've got to do, and there's I mean, we're halfway through chapter 6, so we've only got 5 of these at the moment that we can put together, doing it chapter by chapter. But the idea is that then it'll be maybe a 3 to 4 hour, probably longer, video of just condensed versions of these stories, nice and flowy, nice and quick, and we'll release those as videos and podcasts, and we'll actually we'll be putting those as simply early access for patrons. And we will absolutely be premiering those to the public as part of those dark seasons as well, as and when we have them.
Very good.
So that's the bonus supporting content, which is all very good. Did you have any questions on that, Becky? Because I know that's a somewhat new one.
Gosh, there's a lot to come and a lot to look forward to. And part of me does sometimes kind of like think about kind of like rewatching past episodes and events, and I just try and like piece together, oh, so that's when she mentioned him, and then that's why he's come up now, and that kind of thing. Just join the dots effectively, but of course finding the time. But re-editing into an abridged version is of course definitely a good idea. I mean, publishers do it all the time. They just bring out new versions of books, nice new covers on.
Sure enough.
So yeah, I think they'll get a really good response, especially from those who sign up to support from Patreon, because it's a lovely bonus for their support.
And it is an opportunity to kind of revisit some of those old episodes, because also there are definitely things, as I've alluded to before, there's a lot of seed planting going on. And it's sometimes it could be a year since that seed was initially, sometimes even more since that seed was initially planted, and you kind of want to go back and kind of go, oh, okay, well actually, yeah. So I think it's nice to kind of revisit those stories. So it's a good opportunity for people to do that as well, I suppose. So yeah, so that will be Bardic Quest Abridged, which will be premiering during those dark seasons with early access for patrons. The next category then, and again, I think this is gonna be one that people are gonna appreciate. I think actually, Becky, this is one that you yourself are very much going to appreciate. Is this commentary category? So we're going to be introducing a new show, which we're going to be again, working title is Bardic Quest Long Rest. The idea is that this is going to be something that we will premiere during those dark seasons of Bardic Quest, where essentially we, the cast, are going to sit down and just kind of informally just chat about what's happened. Perhaps you get a behind the scenes kind of look into kind of what things people like the cast were expecting, what twists and turns I may have been able to catch them by surprise with, or the ones that they were like, come on Wayne, you absolutely like signposted that one for us, you're not that clever, all of that sort of stuff. All of those kind of discussions of just a general discussion on our experience as a cast running through each individual chapter. So again, that'll be something that we will be releasing during those dark seasons, and of course there'll be early access for the patrons with that as well, which will kind of be again a somewhat rarer bit of content that we'll put out. I don't know, maybe I might step it up to a more frequent one, or maybe we might even have such discussions on a more regular basis in the Discord, perhaps doing some Q&A stuff in the Discord, perhaps, I don't know, but in terms of the Long Rest show itself, that's intended to be like a cast-led behind the scenes kind of discussion about the latest chapter of Bardic Quest, the main show, whether that be this campaign or campaign 2, which will be fun. So yeah, so that's kind of like the bonus kind of behind the scenes commentary stuff. But there are 2 more shows to announce that I'm very, 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 very excited to kind of announce. So obviously we've talked about season 2, and we've talked about everything being homebrew for season 2. However, I've actually really enjoyed, and I think the cast have as well, and I know that Isaac alluded to it when we were doing Bardic Questions, this world that we've kind of been playing around with, the Forgotten Realms, you know, the default D&D 5e setting that exists. I think we've all really enjoyed playing around in that world and allowing that world to build around us. So we don't necessarily want to abandon it entirely. When I originally created Bardic Quest, the reason we started with Lost Mine of Phandelver, if I'm perfectly honest, is because I didn't know if this was going to work. I didn't know if anybody would care. If there's a lot of actual play shows out there, and we're not necessarily, I don't think, doing anything overtly special. We're not doing anything gimmicky. It's just another actual play show, right? It just happens to have actors. But even that's not particularly unique, really. It's just that we're a British show with actors, which is probably as unique as we're making it, really, besides the actual stories that we're telling. So I wasn't sure if there was going to be much response to Bardic Quest, if I'm honest. So I thought, well, we'll do Lost Mine of Phandelver. It's a nice short adventure. If it goes terribly wrong, we can just kind of finish it and kind of move on and never talk about it again. No, I'm being dramatic. But so that's kind of why we started there. It was kind of low risk, shall we say, as an adventure. But again, I kind of quite liked the stories, and the plan always was, actually, because most actual plays do the homebrew thing, right? Because you're kind of telling that unique story, and I kind of thought, well, how can we make things a little bit more unique? Well, I don't actually see that many of like actor-led actual plays running the published adventures, which is why I kind of went down that route as well. So it was those two elements, the kind of low-risk element and the kind of uniqueness of actor-led shows running the published adventures. So the plan originally for Season 2 was to move to a different published adventure. We are going to kind of continue that trajectory through another show that we're going to announce, which, again, working title is going to be Bardic Quest Presents, which is essentially us taking the published adventures and running through those. So obviously they can be quite long term, but the published adventures may not necessarily be, the full blown hard covers. It might be some of like the Adventurers League adventures, or some of the more like the DM's Guild. They have I can't remember what they're called. There's a particular program where it's kind of like essentially a Wizards of the Coast approved DM's Guild adventure. It might be some of those. So we are going to be working through some of the other published adventures, which may or may not be an opportunity for Saga, Thoric, and Johan and Sergei to appear perhaps as part of those adventures as well. So that will be essentially continuing the timeline of Bardic Quest Season 1. I haven't fully settled on what the first adventure will be yet. What I will say at the moment is I am toying with Tyranny of Dragons. However, where I'm not sure how I want to go about this is I haven't decided whether or not I want to go straight into the full hardcover book, or if I want to play around in the less explored region of the Forgotten Realms of the town of Flan, or the city of Flan, which is a great name, over by the Moonsea, and play around in those kind of Adventurers League, kind of much shorter adventures as kind of mini-series. So I'm kind of toying around with both of those ideas, but likelihood is we're going to be playing around in the Tyranny of Dragons storyline for the first Bardic Quest Presents, which is going to be ultra early access to patrons, and then after several months we will then make that available to the public for free.
Very good. Gosh, you are going to be seeing a lot of each other more, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing is with these shows is it's also an opportunity, particularly with perhaps doing those smaller adventures, an opportunity to perhaps invite some new people onto the show as well, and maybe see if we can bring some new friends in. Because that's the other thing about Bardic Quest, about kind of why I wanted to do the show, is like a lot of people that don't necessarily haven't followed D&D for decades. Like D&D has been the secret handshake of Hollywood for a very long time. Except now it's not so much of a secret anymore. It's now a very public handshake of Hollywood for a very long time. And there's a reason for that. It's because D&D, as a hobby, very much leans into all of the aspects of being a filmmaker, whether that be directing, writing, or acting, and improv, right? And so I mean, you know this anyway, Becky. I think it's how you discovered us, was my article about actors and why D&D is such a great hobby for actors. And I kind of like that sense of community that they have over in LA with around D&D and people in the industry. And I kind of wanted to create a platform for which that sort of same community could be built amongst professional storytellers here in the UK, because here in the UK we kind of get forgotten about in the D&D community. And you know, D&D is an American game by an American company. It's very much theirs. But there is a quite a big community over here. So I kind of wanted to create a vehicle for that. So we might be able to use Bardic Quest Presents as an opportunity to bring some new faces in, and kind of share the love, I guess. So that's something that we can experiment with as well as we go forward.
It sounds really revolutionary and exciting all at once. Of course, it's a bit of a silly of me to think that the same cast will be in everything, because these lads just simply don't have the time to play D&D and then do the commentary and then do the abridged and do everything else. But it's going to be good.
I mean, I think you're probably going to see
from the sidelines. So.
Oh well, thank you. I think you're probably going to see the bulk of the cast being the core cast, but it's going to be an opportunity to kind of, again, just bring in maybe one or two new faces here and there, just to kind of, again, share the love, kind of like you see on things like Critical Role and Dimension 20, when they kind of bring some people in for 5 episodes of a mini series or something like that. So it just allows us to open things up and collaborate a little bit more, because the other thing is we don't want to be a little island on our own. You know, we do want the community as a whole to thrive, but also our own community to thrive, and bringing in new faces and things is a great way for us to do that. So again, that will be ultra early access to patrons, and then that will be released periodically as and when the time comes. But of course, we have one final show to announce, which the backstory for this I think is brilliant, because April Fools, I thought it would be really funny, me, to tease a new show that would be coming out. There was a reference to, I can't remember what, I think Fishblade, that was it. There was a meme going around the internet in the TTRPG space about this fake TTRPG called Fishblade. And I thought, well, I'm going to put an April Fool's out that we're producing a new show that's going to be using Fishblade as the game that we're going to do the mechanics from, and everybody's going to find it hilarious and blah, 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 blah. So I put that out. Nobody got the joke. Everybody thought I was 100% serious, that this show called Bardic Quest Origins: The Whaler was coming out, because I thought it was appropriate for it to be a show about piracy, because Fishblade, right? And nobody got the joke. Everybody thought I was really serious, and everybody got really, really excited about this new show that was coming out, Bardic Quest Origins: The Whaler, and I felt terrible, because I then had to let everybody down really, really gently and say, well, no, it's not actually a thing. It was meant to be a joke.
April
Very, very sorry.
Fools.
Yeah, it was. It was like, April Fools. So then that got me thinking, because obviously people got very, very excited, which means people want a show like that. So we will be producing officially Bardic Quest Origins The Whaler. But it won't be using Fishblade because Fishblade doesn't exist. We will be using D&D as normal. But now this is tricky, right? Because you're doing a prequel story about a PC that exists, and you kind of still want to have plenty of dramatic tension, even though and D&D is unpredictable, right? So you don't really know whether your character's going to survive or not. So how we're going to tackle that is I won't be DMing or writing Origins The Whaler. That is going to be the job of Mr. James Bryan Sergey himself, who will be writing and DMing The Whaler, which is going to be probably our first mini-series that we will be putting out to patrons. Again, it's going to be ultra early access and then released later down the line. So really, I've been talking loads for the last hour and whatever, so I'm going to shut up now and let James talk about what he has in mind for Origins The Whaler.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Becky. Hello, Anina. Hello, Wayne. The Whaler story shall pick up from before Sergey meets the group, so before Sergey even knows of their existence. We are looking at maybe a couple of years before, a couple of months before. And do you know what? I'll just read you the blurb that I've written. So, this is what you shall be expecting. Somewhere out in the cold, windswept seas, there is the frail calls of a whaler. A group of pirates stumble across an abandoned ship, drifting in the water. Who could it belong to? Where did the crew go? And what is that strange sense of being watched? Join the vanguard, friends of Sergei Petrovich, as they venture out to uncover the mysteries of the abandoned ship. The Whaler origin story shall explore this storyline, and we shall dive into what that entails. It shall be a combination of recording sessions, which could be a combination of episodes. We will find out. And yes, it will be consisting of roughly, hopefully, the same cast and crew who make Bardic Quest, with the potential, and I will say potential with a capital P, the potential of some special guests along the way, some new faces joining us on this little adventure. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Again, a lot of this is news to Anina.
Yeah, I mean, I
had the title for a while,
but I thought it was a different cast. Can I please be in it, please?
CC. The plan is to make sure that the offer is brought out to you guys first, and then obviously...
Yay! Yes, pirate time.
Pirate time.
Yeah, we're gonna get full blown pirate.
It's gonna be so much fun. You don't. Well, I've not encountered yet enough pirates in my own D&D experiences so far, so I'm all for it. And to see kind of like how you was kind of like as a player compared to you as a DM is just wonderful. And that blurb has already got like lots of tantalizing clues and drama and tension and intrigue, and
special mysteries.
Bring it on. Oh,
thank you all very much.
Yeah, and again, it's another example of I think where D&D can be at its greatest is like I get to kind of go, okay, James, you play now.
Are we going to see Wayne play? Are you going to see player?
We see Wayne as a character.
Wherever DM steps down.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah,
it's been a long time since I played a character, so again, if the proverbial boot fits, then I will be happy to. Yeah. It's going to be interesting creating a piratey character, though. That's something that's got to fit. Like, it makes me wonder, what would a piratey sorcerer look like, for example?
I see.
and what is a pirate cleric, or a pirate druid.
Yeah, what is that?
Those sorts of things. That intrigues me a lot. But did you have anything else you wanted to share, James, about... I don't know what details you did want to share and how much is... obviously we've had our discussions, but I don't know if there's any more detail you wanted to share than that.
How much do you want me to reveal?
So long as you're spoiler-free, knock yourself out.
I'm trying to think what there could be else to reveal that wouldn't drop any spoilers in there. Am I missing something?
Or you can maybe a minor spoiler, maybe. Nothing too twisty, but just a little bit more detail, perhaps. Sprinkle it in there. And that's a lot of pressure. I appreciate that. I just kind
thinking of the story that's written and what's already can be extracted from that. The is that a spoiler? Oh wait, I don't know. How do you do this?
No spoiler.
Becky
of course, I'm dying to know if this reveals in any way kind of the scene that was alluded to back when you had your first in-character near-death experience of the ship and the boy in the song.
I will say we are exploring parts of Sergei's past, and that could very well crop up. But we are yet to find out. Sergei obviously will play a heavy role in this, so you'll be seeing a lot more of Sergei. There'll be new monsters and new challenges faced. Obviously a completely different setting. And the Vanguard, who will be heading out to the group of adventurers, they're all somewhat tied to Sergei, so they have their own ties, or will have their own ties. And they've essentially been sent out towards this. They're going to be sent out towards this abandoned ship. No, I'm not saying the rest. That's spoilers.
That's fine. That's all good. That's all good.
Yes.
Of course, it would be lovely to see if and when he devised the song about the bear. If he's always had that, or if he just made it up on the spot in Bardic Quest Season 1.
Well, I will say as well,
exciting.
whilst we're talking about music, the thing that Isaac was not sure about what he could or could not say earlier in terms of the more music is Isaac is actively developing a theme for Sergei and or this show.
Very good.
Which is his current project musically with regard to Bardic Quest. So that is currently in the works. Of everything that we've announced, this is kind of priority project. So this is kind of going to be probably the first mini series that we produce. We don't know how many episodes it's going to be yet, obviously, because it's D&D and you can never predict these things. But it's going to be much shorter. It's going to be maybe released over 2 or 3 months. And again, that will be ultra early access on the Patreon for everybody to enjoy. With James heading up, which is really exciting because I've never been at a James Bryan ran table.
It's terrifying.
So I'm really looking forward to witnessing that, and and hopefully maybe one day, Anina, you'll be stepping up to the DM plate as well.
I intend to. I am terrified, but I intend to.
Yeah, so a lot going on. Very, very exciting stuff. I've been waiting. The guys will tell you I've been talking about this since I think March time. Kind of getting Patreon up and running. So it was something I definitely wanted to do this year. And I think we're at a position now where I have the time to produce more stuff and get more stuff produced with the help of everybody else. So I thought 2 years, episode 100 seems the appropriate time to get it all announced and out there, that what we're working on, and get everybody else excited, all of the community excited, because there is a lot to get excited about. So of course, if you want to join in with that, I would plead with you, beg you to please join our Patreon, bardicquest.com, patreon or patreon.com/Bardic Quest. Either link will work. I'll make sure of that. And then you can get access to all of this extra stuff as we put it out. Again, the 2 actual plays, Bardic Quest Presents and The Whaler, are in development currently, so they won't be available at launch, but very, 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 very soon they will be. So now is a great time to kind of let us know your interest by signing up to the Patreon as well, and we can really gauge just how interested you are for all of this extra goodness that we're looking to produce.
I was going to say, it feels like you're all giving us presents more than we're all giving you presents on such a special birthday, milestone, achievement occasion kind of thing.
I feel like the school kid bringing in the sweets on their birthday to hand out to class at the end of the day on their own birthday. That's kind of how it feels. Which is
everyone send us more fan art. I'd love to see. Send us more fan art.
Absolutely, and please do just keep bombarding us with stuff. Like, sometimes it might take me a little bit of time to get to you because I got a lot of shows to produce. But I will get back to you, and I do really appreciate it. I know Robert Treadwell, who sent in some questions, he sends us memes all the time, which I have this huge catalogue of D&D memes that I want to put out on our socials, which he kindly has curated for me. You know, and it is always really, really lovely to hear from everyone. So yeah, this is all for you guys, all for the audience, all for the community, and all for just building this up and taking it to the next level and bringing everybody along on the ride with us. And again, I you know, for the last 100 episodes in the last couple of years, I'm so incredibly grateful to everyone, particularly those of you that have been following us from the very, very beginning. Like I have produced podcasts before and things, and produced theatre shows before, but I've never produced anything that's built a community quite like this. So it really shocked me how quickly that little community has grown, and long may it continue.
Absolutely,
I would say.
Bardic Quest forever.
Yes, good times. So those are all kind of that is the state of the quest. Becky, before we wrap up, was there any questions you had for any of us on this?
Gosh, no, I just wish you all the best of luck in making these new contents and making the Patreon such a success, as I know and hope it will be. Of course, I'll be doing my best to rally the troops,
thank you, Becky.
Bardic Quest army, so to speak, and looking forward to seeing more. And of course, fingers crossed that the Lost Mine of Phandelver ends in beautiful glory for all involved. And yeah, roll on 2024 and all the new things it brings. Yes,
indeed. Very exciting. Thank you again, Becky, as well for hosting not just State of the Quest for us, but also Bardic Questions as well. Very, very, very grateful that you like to be as involved as you do. I'm
very honoured you put up with me so much. So.
Not at all. No, you are in my mind, you are the litmus test. So I'm eagerly, I think I said this to you last year, I eagerly await your reactions to every episode.
Yes, it's a weekly challenge trying to find a GIF that represents what's happened. Sometimes multiple GIFs. I mean, I couldn't find GIFs that represent the return of Sergei on a Nina at all that actually do it justice, but they were both brilliant returns to a series. So
wonderful. Well, thank you again, Becky, and of course, thank you to everybody that's been joining us on these celebrations this last week. And don't forget, episode 100 coming out on Thursday, or if you can't wait that long, it should be available on our Patreon right now at bardicquest.com/Patreon or patreon.com/BardicQuest, whichever one you prefer.
Just go to Patreon and search Bardic Quest.
100%. Yes. 100%. Awesome. Thank you very much. We'll see you for episode 100.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.